Hey folks, welcome back to another round of the Recruiting Corner. My name is Joshua Zimmerman. I'll be your host as usual. Last week we talked about character, what character is, and how character really affects you as a student athlete. I left out a story that I want to just go ahead and tell you guys about today. Something I find is really important, and it's something with the whole Kim Kardashian thing in the news right now. It's actually something that has been brought back to light. So we're all familiar with who Kris Humphries is, but a lot of people don't know about his recruiting story. Basically, what happened to him or what happened between him and the University of Kansas when he was getting recruited. Kris Humphries obviously was a McDonald's All-American basketball player coming out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Kansas really wanted Kris Humphries. Kris Humphries really wanted Kansas. So he decided to go on an official visit there where he had planned on committing to the University of Kansas at that point. The coach had planned on offering him a scholarship. The relationship was already formed. When he arrived on campus, though, his character issues came to light, and it kind of created a little bit of problems for him. Kris actually really ticked off the team. He came on campus quite arrogant. Apparently, when he was hanging out with the team, he was talking about how great he was going to be. He was going to be the leading scorer. All the other teammates were going to take a back seat to him. So on and so forth. Really upset the team. They said that he was quite the jerk. They went to the coach at that point and said, listen, we don't want this guy on our team. There's no way we're going to play with him. Basically, the coach had to take the team side on that. And when Kris Humphries says, I love Kansas, I really want to go here, the coach says, that's great. Unfortunately, we don't want you. Kris Humphries later obviously committed to Duke and then decided to decommit from Duke and went to University of Minnesota, did 1 year, and now is in the NBA. Don't pay attention to the latter part of that story. The important part is that his character issues cost him his dream ride at the University of Kansas. So although things worked out for him in the end, it's unfortunate that he didn't get to play for the school that he always wanted to because he was a bonehead. Today's topic is going to be understanding recruiting, and not so much understanding how to do every step in the recruiting process, but really just understanding sort of how to get the process started, what you should do. And the nice part about it is that if you're a parent watching or you're a student watching, you've either had a job or maybe you have a job, and therefore you can sort of build upon that and understand that recruiting isn't as hard as people make it out to be. I know some people try to make it out to be like it's this Russian language that nobody understands, but really, if you look at it in a different perspective, in a different light, it's pretty easy to understand. So I want to go through just a couple things with you to help you understand that. Now, I mentioned earlier, if you had a job or you have a job, that it's one of those situations where you really already understand what you need to do. And if you look at getting recruited just like you do is getting a job, then it starts to make a lot of sense and it becomes very easy. If you're trying to get a job, one of the first steps that you're going to do, this is obviously for you that are in high school trying to get a job, it's for those of you that have graduated college and have gotten a job, or parents obviously that have jobs, you've all done this before. You're gonna have to start looking for the position that you want. You just don't go out there and somebody offers it to you. Maybe it happens, maybe 1%, but for the most part, you've gotta do the legwork. You've gotta find the jobs that are open that you're qualified for. Well, it's the same thing with recruiting. Not every recruit is gonna be qualified to play Division I football or basketball or baseball or gymnastics or any of the other sports. Sometimes maybe there's a Division II, Division III slot, NAIA spot, junior college spot that you qualify for. You have to do the legwork and find those. Those coaches aren't gonna come up to you and say, hey, I really want you. Instead, you're gonna have to go tell the coach that you really want them. And so you have to be proactive in finding those positions. And then once you've found those positions, you gotta submit a resume. Just like every employer expects a resume before they can give you a job, every coach expects a resume before they can offer you either a scholarship or a walk-on position. It just makes sense. That resume is the make it or break it point for you as an athlete, just as it is for an employer-employee relationship. When I'm trying to get a job and I submit my resume, that's either going to get me in the door for an interview or it's going to make sure that I never get spoken to again because I'm either qualified or I'm not. As an athlete, you're either qualified or you're not. So after that resume makes it or breaks it for you, you list, of course, on your resume all your academic, your athletic statistics, as well as hopefully your video. that coach is going to make a determination on whether they want to recruit you, whether they want to get you in an interview situation. Now, for a job, the interview process lasts maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe sometimes a couple months. That really stretches it. I've never really seen an interview process for a job in the real world that lasts that long. Recruiting, several years sometimes. Some people that wait too long, maybe their recruiting process is only 6 months. That's dangerous. You want your recruiting process to last years. You want these coaches to know everything about you and to have enough time on their side, basically, to get to know you as best possible. That means years. So yeah, no job interview lasts years. It's not worth the employer's time. Recruiting lasts years. So these pseudo interviews that you're going to be going through could be email, they could be phone, they could be in person via visits, they could be visits by the coach to your school, they could be visits by your coach to a game. It just depends, but you have to know that whether you're directly talking to a coach or a coach is just watching you, you're constantly being evaluated and interviewed, all part of the recruiting process. So hopefully just from that explanation there, you understand now that for most of the families that are tuning in right now, you have been through recruiting at one point or another during your lifetime. And it's very, very easy to understand. There's a lot of rules around it, but the basic concepts are very simple. So the next part of that then is making things happen. And I heard a great story one time that I think makes a lot of sense. Was listening to a speech one time by a gentleman involved in college recruiting, and he basically told it from the perspective of himself. I'm going to do the same. And that is basically one morning, I wake up and decide, you know what? I know that I'm a qualified athlete. I want to make things happen. I want a scholarship. I want to go to college. So I decide that I'm going to contact some coaches. I'm not 100% sure how to do it, but I know that a resume is involved. So I jump on my computer and I type up a beautiful resume. I make sure that these coaches think that I am the greatest thing that has ever come across at that point of football field because I was a football player. So I know that I'm great. I know that I deserve some recognition for my abilities and my accolades on the field. And so now I'm going to go ahead and translate that onto paper. Build this beautiful resume. I go ahead, print my resume. I'm all excited. I know things are going to happen. So I run downstairs. I set my resume on this counter and I'm admiring it. This is a beautiful piece of work. And I stand there. I'm waiting for that coach to come find me. I know that I deserve a scholarship. I'm waiting for that coach to find me. I'm going to sit there. My resume's built. I'm just waiting for someone to hand it to. What's the problem here? I stand in my kitchen for 3 weeks. 3 weeks passes, 3 months passes, 6 months passes. No one's come up to me. I'm a great football player. Why? Why is nobody paying attention to who I am? I know I'm great. My parents know I'm great because they tell me all the time that I'm great. But unfortunately, nobody's paying attention. What is going on here? Well, the problem is that I've built a great resume, but I haven't done anything with it. And there are thousands of kids out there that do this every single year, where they have the talent, they have the skill, maybe they have the statistics on a piece of paper, but they're not doing anything with it. The problem is that you have to go out and make things happen. It does you no good to be a great athlete and not tell anyone about it. So make sure that when you build your resume, you're actively sending it out. No coach in their right mind is going to walk up on your front door, walk on your front porch, knock on your front door, and decide to say, hey, I know you're great. Here's a scholarship. I think that you would be the best player that's ever come through my university. Sorry, kids, it's not going to happen. Instead, you have to let those coaches know that you are worth their time, their investment, in being proactive to get the situation started. At some point, those coaches, if they feel you're worth it, will continue and work hard to sell you. But in the beginning, you have to sell yourself. So that's just a couple tips on how to get the resume process started, how to get recruiting process started. Please, please, please be as proactive as possible. And definitely, guys, tune in. If you have any questions, I mention it every week, definitely hit us up on Facebook. It's @net. On Twitter, it's @athnet right here. All the shows are on YouTube. YouTube is at Athnet Sports. Thanks. Have a great one.